Is a parent-led autism revolution for real? Since when did autism advocacy, not the same and not to be confused with autistic advocacy? So, when did autism advocacy not have complete influence on legislation for autistics in the United States? Hmm? Yep. I'm not sure where I first saw the term parent led autism revolution this past couple of days. Maybe it's a couple of weeks now, but it's stuck. Stuck like a burr in my ass. Because since when are non autistic parents and their parent led organizations not been the loudest voice on autism? Always? How exactly how exactly are they so oppressed by autistics that they need to formally start a revolution against our civil and disability rights movement? This is absurd. Okay, so let's go back a little bit here and look at some basics of autistic history, okay? Actually, I need to take a smoke because, oh boy, this is just a whole bunch of what and WTAF, okay? Oh, I'm smoking a big mix right now. It's a mix of everything, I think, in my favorite silicone long Gandalf style pipe. Oh, yeah, this is definitely needed. Definitely needed. Ooh. Whoa. Yes. All right. Cannabis cough. Not double vaxxed here. That's definitely cannabis cough and nothing else. Okay, let's go back and take a little look here at some basics of autistic history. Let's see, the first thing to understand is the non-autistic parent-led autism revolution is 100% ABA driven. That's applied behavioral analysis driven. ABA today makes up the majority share of the $2 billion a year autism treatment market. A market that is boasting that it's still booming and has so much more they can earn. So remember the mid 2000s, right? Told you we're going a little bit back here in autistic history. So mid 2000s, uh, well, yesterday's or the numbers in the mid 2000s, if you weren't around then, autism prevalence numbers used back then to scare the public about the impending autism epidemic the world just couldn't afford. Well, they're using those same numbers today to forecast the revenue from the booming autism treatment market. And guess what? You're gonna be so shocked and surprised. Woo! Not. Alright, Autism Speaks is touted as one of the largest players in the autism treatment market. Yeah. So, how's that autism epidemic working out for you, Autism Speaks? Self serving epidemic? Much? Whoa. So, okay, it was also non autistic parent led organizations that lobbied for the Combating Autism Act that included Medicaid coverage of ABA, and this was passed in 2006, December 2006, and signed by President George W. Bush. And then again, they lobbied for state by state legislation to force private insurance companies to cover the cost of this medically necessary and evidence based autism therapy, also known as autistic conversion therapy. And yes, this is the same as gay conversion therapy that was developed by behaviorist pioneer Ivar Lovis. Okay? So these parent led organizations also lobbied for this autism Treatment Acceleration Act, or ATAA, and rallied together through the autismvotes.org site. So, and they did all of this while referring to their autism community, purposefully erasing autistic voices so they could be the loudest voice on autism instead. This was done because autistics do not condone the use of conversion therapy to make us less autistic and pass as more typical by kindergarten. We also know it's bullshit. Yeah, utter, utter fucking bullshit. It just look at the evidence, right? The evidence. Let's take a look at this evidence based bullshit. Yeah, just hold on to your hats for this one. Probably tinfoil was at this point. Okay. The evidence. Yeah, okay. All right, so this is what blows my mind. Completely. The evidence based studies touted by all these organizations actually showed that ABA didn't work. They lobbied this autism treatment, this conversion therapy, this behavioral shit, with a known 50 to 95% fill rate. They didn't hide it. It's quoted everywhere. See, that was the evidence they presented. This is the evidence they presented. And this is a best rate scenario because guess what? This study was never been replicated, and it's not for lack of trying. It hasn't been replicated in repeated studies and study after study. They cannot even get that as a success rate, right? So even with that success rate of 5 to 50%, right? In every other world partner, I mean, what? That's an F. Fucking fail. So this is the evidence. And that evidence, since they presented it, can't be replicated. So we can't even say it does that. And twice now, and it's not just random folks, twice now, the Department of Defense, the United States Department of Defense, has reported back that ABA doesn't work. In 2019 and 2020, that's the evidence. This is the evidence-based bullshit, okay? And they didn't hide it. The evidence showed the massive failure rate. So how the hell did they do this? How did they get everyone convinced something with such a high fucking failure rate was medically necessary autism treatment? Tell you what, I'm drinking the coffee and I'm smoking the weed and oh boy, I don't know that it's helping any. Okay, so I'll tell you how they did this. Marketing, propaganda, tragedy narrative, fear narrative, violence narrative, martyr narrative, and so on and so forth. And that's how it went. So, and even apparently on the legislation floor, it didn't matter that the evidence stated wasn't a very nice success rate of 5% to maybe 50%. No. They didn't stay focused on that. They just glossed right over that, pushed it right through. Okay? They pushed it right through because guess what? The hope they pinned it on early intervention. The earlier, the better, right? If you can just get these autistics earlier enough, you can change their brain in time to not be a burden on society by the time they're in kindergarten. And that success rate is 5% to maybe 50%. Maybe. Most likely not. But, early intervention was going to fix that success or failure rate. I mean, I'm saying failure rate because obviously that's a fucking failure, but apparently you can say whatever you want and call it a win and they believe you, even with the facts in front of their face. All right, so the other thing is they pushed this right through. They pinned and said evidence based therapy and pinned early intervention as the win, but they had no evidence to back it up. They still don't. Oh boy, they still don't. Hello? So, also to note, these organizations never, ever mentioned the real autistic community. They never acknowledged our existence in the public or our fight to be heard over them. In fact, they behaved in the public eye as if we didn't exist. We are a mythical creature. Oh my gosh, an autistic women and non-binary. Yeah, we didn't exist at all. And so many intersectionalities that they crossed right over and who are still suffering from that exclusion today in terms of getting supports and things needed in place and, oh, I don't know, affecting rates of, I don't know, incarceration as care or things like homelessness, but that's a different podcast on a different day. So these parent-led organizations presented their self-created non-autistic, mostly non-autistic, some of their kids are included here. They're bringing them in young. Autism community. And it's the autism community that they created, that they shared about to the world and referred to in the work. So every time they talked about, we have a consensus in the autism community, they weren't including autistic people in that at all. And they didn't tell you we existed out here at all. They erased us. They erased the autistic community in their marketing, in their press releases, and worse, they prevented us from being at the table in any sort of meaningful manner in any legislation or initiatives about us, our lives, our medical care, and so fucking much more. When you read about the autism wars, they always speak to two fronts in this war. They talk about the anti-vaxxer / pseudoscience movement, and they talk about the CureBee movement, which is like genetics, cure, prevention of birth, abortion, and the ABA recovery movement, all that's kind of together. So, but what's not mentioned, and these two warring factions go at each other, okay? They are right here, you'll see, and we're talking about the Combating Autism Act that was presented in these folks in 2006. They're all together here, but after 2007, that is not the case. But that, again, is autistic history for another podcast on a different day. So, what they don't mention, what's often not mentioned, is the autism wars, the third front out here, the one that includes us, the majority of autistic people, right? We're out here. We've always been out here. Whoa. So the media's idea of fair and balanced reporting on the vaccine autism link back then was ridiculous. First of all, they only ever spoke to non-autistic people about it, and some reporters falsely entertained pseudoscience and quackery as real and caused incredible harm for autistic people and our community worldwide. Deep, deep harm, and a harm we are still battling to make it stop today. Okay, autistic inclusion to these organizations means using us as autistics. They use us as a token or a prop. And they only like us for as long as we parrot their agenda, as long as we can be used as their, self-narrative zoo. I think that might be in one of Jim Sinclair's pieces. Uh, yeah. So autistics that don't subscribe to parent-led agendas for us, yeah. That's when these organizations, Army, build their warrior moms or warrior parents and grandparents and actively battle autistics. They battle us for demanding basic human and civil rights. They battle us on our fight for disability rights. They've gone so far as to attempt to sue some autistics for their activisms in our history and interfere with our rights to free speech and self advocacy. They are very, very well known in the autistic community for their ways of bullying, intimidating, and terrifying autistics who did speak up in the early days. Oh boy, there are some stories there. And again, that's autistic history for another day, and maybe an interview with some folks who were there at the time. Autistic people. So, these organizations promoted also early intervention with ABA as early as possible to be the great savior of autistic children from being, well, autistic. They use the term recovered at the time, autism recovery through ABA, right? There's no science behind it though. That part right there, what the hell? There's no science behind it. That was a wish and a prayer and a big pile of bullshit. See, this early intervention was the promise for a better future for all autistics born today. It was going to head off the impending autistic crisis. There was no study or evidence, though, that ever proved early intervention worked better than the original study. No. But that doesn't stop them. No, these parent-led organizations lobbied hard and knowingly over the voices of autistics, of our people. They silenced us harshly, dehumanized us, belittled us, and, now what we're used to as the usual nonsense and ugliness from this factor. This is not a new phenomenon for us at all. We just keep cycling every new generation of parents, and it's exhausting. But it goes back way further. No, this goes back since before the Snore Wars and the launch of Autism Network International. Now, this is very, very autistic history, and you can find links to information on Autism Network International, how it came to be, how the Snore Wars got started, and how parents literally kicked autistics off their servers for being too autistic, I guess, in humor. So you can find those links on internationalbadassactivist.org on this podcast episode article there, okay? I'll have them linked so you can find it there, or you can Google Autism Network International by Jim Sinclair. They published this, I believe, in 2005. And also to note, Jim Sinclair also wrote Don't Mourn for Us, and it was back in 1993. If you haven't read that yet, please, please, please look it up and do. It's an incredible piece of history, and it's incredible for everyone to read. And how great would it have been if that was... yeah, well, there's no going back. So, since before the Snore Wars and the launch of the Autism Network International, also known as ANI, we have been silenced and battled by parents of autistics who want the power of our voice as theirs. And unfortunately for us, so far, they have been able to co-opt our voices in the media, in the public, and in representation and legislation. So many of these organizations founding parents and grandparents aren't your everyday parents and grandparents. They're not parents like me. They're not grandparents like my children's grandparents. No, not at all. Oh gosh, no, we're not even talking about everyday people. Nope. Yeah, smoke them if you got them. You're gonna need it. If not, I'll smoke another one for you. Cause just wait. Everyone refers to or often refer to Autism Speaks and organizations like them as grassroots organizations, lending to the idea that these are small little things that started up with just parents and the sweat of this and that is not the case at all for Autism Speaks. And these autism organizations they network with, the power behind them is probably bigger than the government at this point, the way these folks are. These folks are so big. They are media conglomerates, hedge fund managers, big philanthropists, celebrities, movie stars, sports stars, fashion designers, best-selling authors, specialized schools, charter schools, banks and bankers, lawyers, and more. There really, really, really isn't an industry or sector, including our pediatricians' offices and our schools, that are untouched by these organizations' advocacy goals for us. Isn't that absurd? Celebrities, media conglomerates, media moguls, hedge fund managers are deciding what science to fund for autism research, and they are the loudest voice on autism over the voices and knowingly over our voices of autistic people. They're very aware of us. They're very aware of activism, even back in '05, even back in '03. This is not new, okay? Not new at all. So these parent led organizations were also involved with getting the Combating Autism Act passed. And this, in part, made Medicaid cover ABA. This was a federal legislation. And then later, they lobbied state by state legislation with the Autism Treatment Acceleration Act, or ATAA, and forcing private insurance companies to cover the steep cost of ABA. So not only are the majority of autistic activists excluded from these organizations, so are the majority of autistic parents of autistics. These organizations treat us horribly when we advocate for a better future for our autistic children and grandchildren. A future that doesn't include ABA and eugenics. A future that doesn't include autistic conversion therapy for my children and grandchildren in every aspect of their entire lives. The way this is rolling out, it is ugly. So we are, as parents, autistic parents of autistics, just as belittled, mocked, and chided for our activism as autistic self advocates are, and we are also autistic self advocates too. We are all, it doesn't matter unless we agree with ABA and what they want for us, we are all belittled, mocked, and chided for our activism, and they don't care about our lived experience, and they don't care about our parenting experience. The arguments they use against us are ridiculous, and I am just not sure what other culture they could do this to and get away with it so brazenly. Our autistic culture is consistently berated as meaningless, laughable, and unworthy of recognition, compassion, or support. To compound matters more, much of the stigma we autistics suffer today and have for past, 20 some years since these organizations really started getting put together and known. This is the backlash to the non autistic autism community culture created by non autistic autism parents and their fellow advocates and their frickin' antics. Yeah, so we've got some extreme behaviors by parents out there over the years demanding equality in some very odd and unhelpful ways. Yeah, so that's a whole lot there, but again, we're going to stay focused here. So, here's what I'm wondering. This whole parent-led autism revolution, I can't quite understand what the actual fuck. Because guess what? Non-autistic parent-led organizations have dominated the entire narrative on autism since always. 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 In fact, we can use an example. Let's take a look at the organizations that lobbied for ABA coverage, for autistic conversion therapy coverage to be mandated via the Combating Autism Act on the federal level. So there is another push state by state after this, and there'll be more on that later. Start looking at years 2006 and 2007 in the Autistic History Archives if you wish to jump ahead or look somewhere specific. That's about where that is. Or you can look up Autism Insurance Reform or ATAA in the search to find those in the archive as well. So let's take a look at these organizations, but to note very clear, absolutely none of these that I mentioned in this list, none of these organizations are autistic allies. None of them. Not a single one. And almost every single one of them, except for two, I think, are parent-founded organizations. Parent-founded organizations, parent-led organizations, parent-fueled fast science. Or pseudoscience, depending on which side you're on there. Autism 1 is listed here. Autism 1, holy fuckballs. Of course, they're parent-founded, and they are a problem. We'll talk about the problems of these more and expansive in the next segment after this. But briefly here, I have Autism 1, Autism Society of America, parent-founded and founded by the pioneer of Applied Behavior Analysis by Ivar Lovis. Oh, wow, really? Shock and awe. So, Autism Speaks, grandparent and parent-founded. COSAC was parent-founded. Cure Autism Now. And they merged with Autism Speaks back in 2007. They were parent-founded and celebrity parent-founded. Isn't that awesome? Hollywood parents. So, also the Dan Marino Foundation was parent-founded. I believe this is a sports celebrity. Doug Flutie Jr. Foundation, also parent-founded. Perhaps sports. Sports is, I don't know. It's a different world for me. So I'm trying there. See, First Signs. Oh, that just blew me away. First Signs organization is parent-founded. Generation Rescue, we absolutely know is parent-founded. Anti-vaxxer, quackery, Andrew Wakefield, the bullshit, you name it. Hey! Yeah. Something called the Help Group. I don't believe this is parent-founded, but it's also not autistic-founded or autistic inclusive, and I don't know that's specific to autism only. I think they provide a wider variety of services. So, what I do know is National Autism Association on this list is parent-founded, and today, Quackfest happening with J.B. Handley over there, anti-vaxxer extraordinaire, the king of anti-vaxxers is talking about his new book with National Autism Association on their feeds and on their live streams. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we still got anti-vaxxers, quack, snake oil, bleachers everywhere, even today, and they were there participating in legislation about us, fucking without us. Bleachers. Yeah, so Organization for Autism Research, also parent founded. Safe Inc., parent founded. Oh, fuck balls, y'all. It's Safe Minds. Woo! Holy shit, quack attack. Safe Minds, parent founded. Katie writes a big one over there. Oh, shit. Go look over at Children's Health Defense now, too. That's where they're at. That's just. Oh, boy. Those are some mean ass activists towards us, too. We should all be cured and bleached into recovery. Also, parent founded Southwest Autism Research and Resource Center, also known as SARRC. Hey, guess who else is a parent founded? You're gonna be shocked. Not if you're in the autistic community, you won't be. Talk about curing autism, TACA. They changed their name in the last year or two to something about community, but they can still go fuck themselves. That was my last message, right? Go fuck yourselves, you anti-vaxxer, quack, bullshit, bleaching, loving, lying, pseudoscience organization. I cannot believe these people are allowed to function and also profit off of us and collect 501c3 status. Bullshit. Another organization here called Talk Autism, parent founded. I don't know why this one's included. The Deidre Emis Environment Center of Pediatric Oncology. Makes no sense. We're not talking cancer. We're talking autism. But I do know the husband here had a show and they did a lot of stuff with that and that radio show and things like that, and probably NBC related somehow. So Unlocking Autism was also founded, and the U.S. Autism and Asperger Association. I don't know what they are, so, but they are not autistic led. These organizations are very much problematic for far, far, far more than their lack of autistic inclusion, and I will explain a little bit about each, or highlight some about each in the next segment here. But and we'll go into more detail on these organizations in the future. There's just so much autistic history. It's just overwhelming. So we're going to stay super focused right now. So many of these organizations are a front for pseudoscience movement and are notorious for their harmful and toxic autism cures. Things like chelation, miracle mineral solution, powdered parrot head, turpentine. Oh, and so many terrible things. Hyperbaric oxygen chambers, so much more. It's terrible. So much more. These organizations continue to quite literally worship Andrew Wakefield and Robert Kennedy Jr. and promote their propaganda online. And they profit off of everything they do. Don't even think that they don't. Oh my God, the money they make off of this. But they also host some of the largest autism conferences in the nation, in the United States, every year. And their Autism One's coming up. They've switched out from Chicago in May this year to California, folks, in September. So if anyone's going to be there in protest, please holler. That is the Autism One conference scheduled to happen with RFK Jr. as a keynote, JB Handley book signing, and Carrie Rivera, Bleacher Queen herself, Miracle Mineral Solution peddler, video conferencing in from Germany, because I guess if she shows up here in the States, chink, she'll go the way of the Grinnons in Florida, right? Oh, sad. All right, so that being said, moving on, this parent-led autism movement is utter bullshit. Yep. Bullshit. Why? Why is it bullshit? Because autistic parents of autistic like me exist. And like me, most of us are calling bullshit on these organizations and have done so for decades. 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 And they're excluding us from this parent led movement, right? How nice of them. How inclusive of them. How kind of them. Guess what? Non autistic parents of autistics, you don't get to own an entire parent movement to yourself. You don't. You really, really? No. So, no. So, how about this? Okay. Let's get to reality and just call you what the fuck you actually are, the Autistic Conversion Therapy Movement. What? Alright, fine. Since you can't recognize your own bullshit, I'll accept the ABA movement. But a parent led movement, you are not. Because a parent led movement that includes ABA and doesn't include autistic parents of autistics like me, that's not parent movement. You don't get to erase parents like us. Not anymore. Not in 2021, bitches, because we're right here. Besides, who do you think raised this generation of self advocates you keep spewing hate speech at, huh? And diminishing and demoralizing. Who do you think mentored them? Who do you think helped them learn their history, their culture, their people, right? I'm not. Autistic parents. Autistic parents taught their autistic kids better than ABA. Oh, yeah. Guess what? Oh, autistic elders have been around and they've been teaching them too. They've been mentoring too. They've been teaching them about the autistic human rights, about the autistic and disability rights movement, and that there's nothing about us without us, and they're not alone out there now. Yeah. So, shock and surprise, autistic parents of autistics. And hey, we have non autistic kids too. Funny how that works. And autistic elders, we're out here in the big world and we really fucking exist. We exist now. We exist when you pretended we didn't exist. We have been here for a long, long time. So, you don't get to own a parent movement inclusively as if it's all yours. It doesn't work like that anymore. Let's just be clear. I'm a parent. I'm a parent of autistics. I'm an autistic parent of autistics. And apparently, I did. I will someday be an autistic grandma of autistics too. My activism is both self-advocacy and parent-led advocacy to create a better future for my autistic grandchildren not yet born. Because believe me, today's reality is awful. So listen up, my neurotypical friends. You aren't the only parents of autistics. You don't get to claim an entire parent movement just to yourselves anymore. No, you are not erasing our autistic existence again. And you're not excluding us from parenthood over our fight to make ABA illegal in every state in the nation and get it banned worldwide and get it known for what it is. And to note, we're not alone. We're getting heard a lot more loudly these days. Our voices are carrying so far. There are so many non-autistic parents of autistics that are incredible actual and true allies to the autistic people and the autistic community. And there are more and more every day. So understand this: you don't own the parenthood narrative, and what privilege you must have to ever possibly think that you did. I think they call that ableism. So, how about you check that shit at the door? And how about you just call yourselves what you really are: the Autistic Conversion Therapy Movement. It's your advocacy. You own it.